Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Talk. I am pumped for today because I have a special guest, and she is an absolute incredible woman, human coach, and everything in between. Her name is Jessyca Jordan, and I'm going to take a minute to read because I got to get all the goodness right of
Yes.
who and everything she is. Uh, Jessyca Jordan is an embodiment and transformation coach who guides women out of the boxes of who they think they should be
Mhm.
and back into the aliveness of who they really are. So much yumminess there. After leaving behind her corporate career, marriage, and a conventional life path, Jessyca fully devoted herself to the world of healing, nervous system regulation, tantra, and embodiment. Can't wait to dive into that.
Yeah.
Her own journey, including the grief of miscarriage and the unraveling of old identities, became the portal that initiated her into body wisdom, sacred transformation, and the freedom to live authentically. I have no doubt that has already resonated with so many people. And now, nomadic, she works with women who are ready to break free from jobs, roles, and relationships that no longer fit and instead create a life led by their body, soul, and deepest truth. That is otherwise known as a fuck yes life. Thank you so much.
Fuck yes. Turned
And
on. Fuck yes. Yeah.
we will repeat this later on, but you can connect with Jessica on Instagram at Jessica_Jordan. And she currently has a few open spaces for one-on-one clients. So keep that in mind and body-led transformation as we are going.
Yay, Linda. I am so excited to be here. Yeah.
With Jessie J. You know that singer Jessie J? Every time I see your name, every time it pops up, that's why I say I'm like Jessie
J-
J.
Yes, I do know. What's that go-to, like the go-to song that she sings?
Well, she's got so many. Domino was a big one.
Mhm.
She also has this song called "Do It Like a Dude," and that was one of my favorites because it's so, like, raunchy and
Ooh,
gangster. I just love yeah,
mm.
it's like, "Do it like a
Like a
brother,
do.
do it like a dude."
Should our whole podcast just be like dancing and
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like I just said, you are guest numero uno, which is
what an
absolutely
honor.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, first things first, this is called Coffee Talk. So we each are sipping on something right now. I am sipping on coffee. But okay, my question to you is, do you drink coffee on a regular basis? Have you ever had just, like, the best cup of coffee? And meaning, like, the experience. It wasn't maybe the coffee was, like, okay, but you just remember having this, like, moment where you're sipping on this warm, lovely cup of coffee and just life felt so freaking good.
Yes. Okay. I'm so pumped to be here. Coffee talk. I do drink coffee on a pretty regular basis. I will do like half calf, half decaf, as my system is a bit sensitive. Right now, I'm sipping on cacao, which I have a really special relationship with. I had a feeling you were going to ask me this, Linda, because it's coffee talk, and I was thinking about my relationship with coffee. So we both know this person, Victor Wilson, who we both met at Bridge, and my best cup of coffee was made by Victor. So just this year in Austin, Texas, it was
What?
like he like made it with all of this like love, and it was coffee and there was cacao mixed in it and like all kinds of other special things that he put in it. It was when like someone makes you something and you just know it's made of love, it just tastes that much better too. And then we got to drop in deep connection together, and I can't wait to tell him this, that I'm like bringing his name into this podcast. But that was definitely my favorite cup of coffee. Yeah, like it was such a treat.
Love that. Okay, so what did he put in it besides the cacao?
I know, that's a great question. I think he kept it, like, secret on purpose. I don't know.
Alright, so you mentioned bridge, right? So
Yes.
this is where you and I met, the bridge experience. I remember when I was sitting in that room,
Mhm.
and I just remember turning around at one point and, like, our eyes locked, and it was one of those moments for me where I was like, "Ooh, she's a human that I wanna know." You had this energy where I was like, "Ooh, yes." Just like this immediate like, was playfulness in your eyes, plus also just this, like, curiosity, and I was like, I can't wait to know her."
Yeah.
But, okay, for those that do not know about bridge, how would you explain the bridge experience?
Without giving too much of it away, because a lot of the magic, in the bridge experience is not knowing what you're stepping into. But when I do explain this to people that I know, I explain it as sort of like nervous system, like combat for your nervous system.
Yes.
Like, that's how I explain it. I was going through such a deep transformational period in my life at the time, and I still am, and we'll probably get into it. And I was so drawn and magnetized towards this work because it's a lot of expanding the capacity to be in the body and to be with all of life and to lead your life from the body and from this like bottoms up approach versus the top down, which I think most of us in this Western society lived from for so long. I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I did.
Yep.
So it's really just putting yourself in situations that you don't know are coming, much like life. And how are you going to react in that situation? That's what this bridge was for me.
Yeah.
How was it for you? How would you explain it?
I would explain it similarly in the sense of it's this like life dojo that
Yeah.
you didn't even know that you needed, but you quickly understand. Okay, you quickly understand why you are bumping up against yourself in ways that you actually don't even recognize you're bumping up against yourself, but everything starts to make complete sense within like 10 minutes within the room. And you're like, "Oh, shit." And I went into the room because I had watched a podcast with Lexi and Preston that they had recorded the first one that they did with Sacred Thomas. So, big reason why I entered that room was number 1, because there was gonna be men and women in the room, and I am
Yes.
currently gonna partner. That is something that is of a priority for me now in this stage of my life. And I just remember, and I've been following, like, Preston and Lexi for a long time throughout their kind of careers, and I just remember when I was not only just listening to them as a couple, but also as individuals, how much growth they both were just embodying within, and everything that they were saying, I was like, "Yep." Yeah, my head, I was just, like, in a constant head nod the entire time, and they mentioned the bridge, in the podcast itself, and I was like, "What's that?" And then I literally just went, signed up, and I had really had, I mean, I knew, kinda knew, okay, it was about nervous system regulation and
Mm.
being a, coach in the health and wellness space. I was like, "Yeah, let's this sounds fascinating, not just for me, but for people that I coach." So I
Yeah.
kind of went in knowing, but not knowing, and then, within that first 10 minutes, I was like, "Oh,
You're like, ah,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
we're gonna go there."
I love what you shared about the women and men being in the room. I first heard Preston speak on Emily Fletcher's podcast, and she's a teacher of mine that I've been following for years. And when I did a retreat with her in Costa Rica a few years back, and it was like this tantric pleasure prayer practice, emotional alchemy, all the things I had been doing in my women's circles and with myself. And it was the first time I was in a space with men and women. And she shares this with Preston, and it was so mind blowing to do the healing in relationship with the other gender. And that for me is such important work. I think there's a time and space for men's work, there's a time and space for women's work. But when we come together in this like true whole, I don't even know how you would say it, but when we come together and do this work, it is next level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really resonate with that.
Wholeheartedly agree. Leading into it, I had just noticed within, even especially on my social media, the conversations were just so in our own silos, right? And
Yes.
starting to get super combative. I just said for myself, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, right? If we are ever to fully develop relationships, if I am ever fully to develop a relationship that is like that whole body yes,
Yeah.
well, then I'm gonna have to start knowing more men, and I mean knowing more men
Yes.
in terms of, like, what is it that they carry? Because it can be so easy to, and this is not saying that obviously men can do some ridiculous things, absolutely, but they're still a human, like, we're all humans. We're all human beings, and we're all doing the human, this. Coming out of Bridge, I started dating again, and it's been a completely different experience because of everything that I was able to learn and hear and see and just experience within those rooms. So, yeah, it just epic, epic.
Yeah, like epic. I mean, we need one another, right? Like that's how it works. Like women need men, men need women, and we bring different
Yeah.
powers to a dynamic. That's like the sun and the moon. They're not one is better than the other. They're like they go together, the yin and the yang, the Shakti and the Shiva. Like it all makes sense when we look back, right? Like we go together and it's not a hierarchy. And this is the work that I love.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what brought you into the bridge room? Like, what
Mhm.
kinda landed you there?
Yeah. Well, I had heard like I said, I'd heard Preston a couple of years on a podcast, and so I'd followed him a little bit. And then I've been really deepening into the world of tantra. Like, this is really where I have, like, a lot of deep passion and interest and energy going towards. And so there was someone that I had met at a tantra immersion with really some great masterful teachers last year, and we created a really special bond. I trusted him a lot, and he was really deep in this community with Preston, and he's like, "Listen, I can see where you're going," and it's someone when you have those people that you meet that can, like, see your magic? This was person that could, like, see my magic even a little bit before I could, and he's
Mm,
like, "You need to be in this room because I know the deep work that you wanna do, and you need to have, like, the nervous system capacity to hold the life that you're calling in." And I'm like, "Done, sign me up." Like, that was what got me into the room because I'm here to play be like, live a big life and play a big role and have a big impact on my life, on people that I come across, and to do that, it's like, how much life can I hold?
yep,
And that's what I really wanted to strengthen.
I love that. Okay, so I have 2 questions. 1, for anybody that's listening that may think that they know what tantra is, can you actually share what tantra fully is? And then because even for me, I mean, we were talking about this in Texas when we were sharing some space together there,
Yeah,
tantra to me has always been a direct link to sex, but it is bigger than that. So would love to
yeah,
kind of have you share that perspective. And then also would love to kind of hear a little bit more on this deep work that you talk about, like this deep
mhm,
work that you want to do and where that's coming from. Like
mhm.
what's the come from on that and why that's so important to you.
Yeah, I love this, and I love that you're bringing this in because there's a quote that has stood out to me in the tantra world. It's like, "I came to tantra for sex, and what I really found was a relationship to God." And that's been my experience with tantra. Yeah, is please do, and I'll find if I can find who quoted it, we'll put it in the notes. But, that's been my relationship, like, tantra was like, yes, there was this deep interest that I have being, like, a very sexual being. I mean, Scorpio sun, Scorpio rising, like, Pluto in my 1st house, I'm, like, all about, like, sexual energy, and so tantra was really interesting for me in that sense, and when I really started to deepen in that, it was like, "Oh, this is so much more than sex. This is how can I experience God in everything and everyone? How can I bring the mystic, the spiritual into the mundane, into my mundane life? Like, how can I feel the magic and the God like presence in everything that I do? And some say that Tantra is the fastest path to enlightenment, right? Because it is this understanding that everything and everyone is God. And it's for me, like, there was a lot of shame that I've held in my story, a lot of sexual shame, some sexual trauma in my lineage and in my story. And Tantra just shines a light and says, God is even in these darkest places. So when I have felt so much shame, like that I couldn't possibly be loved in that, the path of Tantra is like, yes, God is even here. Yes, God is even in this darkest, darkest of places. And when I felt that to be so true in my life, I'm like, this is the path for me to really touch other people is to meet them in their darkest, most shameful parts of themselves. And like, love is here too. Yeah, God is here too.
Okay. That but mystical and the mundane is totally hit. Love that
Yeah.
beyond measure.
Mhm,
And I really appreciate what you just said about, meeting people and what they feel is their most deepest shame, right?
mhm.
And being that person on the other side to
Yeah,
say, I see you and I love you.
yeah.
That was also one of the big takeaways for me within Bridge.
Mhm.
Is that moment when I quickly realized that, number 1, we're all carrying it, right? It's like we are all carrying a s a load of something, shame, doubt,
Yes.
etcetera, and we are all just desperately wanting to feel safe enough to share that out, to let it out, to let it
Yeah.
move, and to know that we are gonna be held, loved, and okay on the other side. That was such the magic of those rooms and quite frankly, obviously, clearly the magic of you. So just what imagine the world where we could all, if we just all up leveled, even just like by 5%,
Mhm.
right? How different it would be. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You shared a little bit on, where you have felt these kind of darker shame moments and you found God in them. Is there a
Mhm.
particular moment that you feel comfortable sharing of what that kind of was like, that process of where you felt that in the lowest of lows you couldn't find God and what that
Mhm.
experience was like actually discovering it within it?
I mean, it's such a good question, and in some ways, I wish that there was, like, this one aha moment that I could be like, "This was the moment." And in truth, I experienced this in so many micro moments, like, even this morning on my mat, because it's a practice, everything is a practice, right? So even this morning on my mat, I had this moment where in my body, I felt I was clinging onto this energy, and it was, "You're not lovable. Like, nobody loves you. I don't like, you can't forgive yourself." And it was this coming back to actually remembering, like, "Okay, I do love myself, and I do forgive myself." And it's like a daily practice that I come back to, Linda. It's like these micro moments is, like, my experience with all of this work is in the practice, is in the remembering in all of the moments.
Yeah, I love that, and the allowing it's really interesting that you shared that moment from your morning, because last night, I had a very similar trying to go to bed, and I was just ruminating. I couldn't
Yes.
all the things, and I got so frustrated with actually just not even being able to fall asleep
Mhm.
that I got up and I started to, do move and just move my hips around and just like and just start to release it, right? And then all of a sudden the tears started to flow.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden the thoughts that were underneath the just the like the to-do list started to come up of what am I doing and where all the doubt and the shame and I just spoke it out and then about 10 minutes into it,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but there's that moment
Mhm.
where you shift from the release and God comes in.
So, like, like the deep exhale, like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
before bridge for me, having those type of moments was not even in my vocabulary to
Yeah.
have that allowance, right? To just be comfortable with not trying to fix it,
Yeah.
but just allowing it to happen
Mhm.
and having the faith and the knowing that God will be on the other side. And really
Mhm.
God is with you the entire time because to your point, it's the practice. It's
Yes.
the whole thing. So I'm curious. I know that you were in corporate America. I know
Mhm.
also you were married
Mhm.
and had some big you've had a in and unfortunately you also experienced a miscarriage.
Mhm.
So I'd love to hear one, just what those transitions,
Yeah.
how those transitions, how you experience those transitions, and also kind of how this work that you do
Mhm.
has helped you through
Mhm.
those big shifts.
Yeah. I mean, all of these things are so big. I was in corporate, and then I also started my own, business with a friend of mine, and we scaled it to $1,000,000. So I was an entrepreneur. So I left corporate and still was in, like, B2B, so in the world, but as an entrepreneur starting my own business and did that whole thing for 6 years. Um, and that one was easy. I went to a Tony Robbins event, walked on fire, and was like, "Holy shit, I am capable of so much. Let's start this thing." And we just fucking did it. Like, we saw it. We had the vision a year prior. We saw it happening. We talked about it. It was like real. And then we went to an experience where we are around like-minded people, and we felt this energy of like, "Oh my gosh, what we're capable of. We just have to believe it." So we came back, and on the tail end of that energy, we just followed that momentum. And so I would say to anyone that feels like they know they want to make a big change, right? Put yourself in an immersive experience around like minded people that really are in that, like wanting to make a big change and ride that energy. Cause that's what helped us like leave corporate and start the business. and we visualized it and we saw it, and there was no doubt in my mind that we would succeed. Like, that's it. There was no doubt. We, like, saw it happening, we knew it, like, we knew the clients we were gonna have, like, we saw it, and then we created it because we're the creators of our reality, and I think sometimes we forget that, and that I don't know that I really understood that what was going on then, but I can see it now. Like, we created it in our mind, and then we just took the action steps towards it. So that was the big mindset shift. The marriage was a big lesson for me in outsourcing my needs to another person because I didn't get
Mm.
what I needed, like, growing up, and so the marriage was like, "Let me outsource this and see if you can meet me," and the leaving of that relationship, as hard as it was because it was a fantastic guy, was this reclamation that I wanted to feel wholeness within me. I wanted to source everything from in me and not put that on someone else. And my next relationship that I enter into will be from this very whole sovereign place. And I didn't have access to that in my last relationship. And so that was the big lesson that I learned and am learning there. And the miscarriage, yeah, that was what brought me back to my body
Mm.
because I had been doing so much personal development work, mindset work, which I believe is such an important part of this. Like, our minds are so powerful and we can create so much in our mind. But there gets a point, for me, there was a point in my journey where the mindset could only get me so far, but my body was still holding so much. And so the miscarriage, what that baby really gifted me with was dropping me down to actually feel the grief, like the physical experience of miscarrying a baby brought me into my body in a way that I had never had access to since, like, disassociated from it at a really young age. And so that started I'd say it was a grief portal for me. That started my coming back into right relationship with my body, and that was almost 3 years ago. Yeah, that I've been doing this embodiment work.
So, oh god, so first of all, thank you for sharing all that so much.
Yeah.
I really resonate with this with the idea of how of disassociation from self, right? And it
Mhm.
feels as though, what you're saying before, the miscarriage, while absolutely awful,
Yes.
turned out to be this gift
Mhm.
from God, universe, that pulled you
Mhm.
back home
Yes.
to you, for better or for
Mhm.
worse, to
Mhm.
start to feel again. For those that are listening that may not be familiar with some of these terms,
Mhm.
how would you kind of describe this feeling of disassociation for you in the day to day, before it kind of coming back online with yourself? What did that
Yeah.
feel like?
The word that comes up is alive. It felt alive, and I love the word that you use, like, like life in color. It's like before I was in my body, life was very, like, gray. I grew up in Ohio, and I think of, like, the weather. It was, like, very, like, Ohio, like, gray. And it felt like a little going through the motions, living in my head. There wasn't this sense of like full aliveness in my body. And when I came back into my body, like, yes, it brought me into grief, but the grief helped me feel alive. And then the anger that I was able to touch helped me feel alive because it's all just energy. I love this term, um, emotion is energy in motion.
Emotion. Mm.
Yes, and that's what it brought me to, feeling my energy and allowing it to move, and so now I go through life and I'm like, you talk about dance, it's like, how can we, like, dance through life? You can see in someone's body, like, is life force, like, moving through you, right? Whereas before, it was just like,
Mm.
well, no movement, and if there's not movement, there's not aliveness, so that's how I would explain it.
Yeah. So I love that. Yeah, like stagnation. That
Yes.
stagnation, like just it kills. It doesn't mean you're not alive, but to your point, there is not aliveness,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Okay. So I'm curious within the how what brought you into the work? So it feels as though like so with dance with me, like I used to get this whisper, right? That
Yes.
intuitive whisper that was like, you should go in there, you should go into that studio and
Mhm.
you know, other moments like that I've had in life, but it feels as though within these moments or around them, there have been probably some whispers or inklings that you've gotten, um, that you've made the choice to follow.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about maybe what some of those moments were and felt like for you?
Mhm. My first big whisper, and I wanted to bring this up too because it's been such a big part of my journey, was the whisper that I got to sit with ayahuasca.
Mm.
And that was that and has been such a big part of my journey of putting me in a situation where I was with this medicine and I could take a it gave me enough space to not be so in my head and so in my small self story that it opened me up to different levels of consciousness, to a different paradigm, to infinite possibilities that I didn't have access to at the time without the help of an ally medicine. And so that was 4 years ago, and I will say even before then, to hear the whispers, we have to be able to, be in a little bit of stillness to be able to hear that whisper. And when I was in corporate America before, I was in this really toxic work environment. I was working like 70 hours a week. I was in a constant state of fight or flight, and I didn't know it. But I wasn't working out. My health wasn't a priority. I wasn't seeking any help. I wasn't talking to anyone. And I didn't know until I left and I took a 60% pay cut and I left that toxic agency and went to a company where I was working like 35, 40 hours a week. I got to go to the gym. I started seeing a therapist. I joined a Bible study and I just had more time to my nervous system. You know, if you have a snow globe and it's like constantly shaking, it was like finally the snow globe was put on a table and it started to
Mm.
settle. And that's where you hear the whispers, right? So it wasn't until I really got honest with myself and said, this doesn't feel good. And I just hit a breaking point where I couldn't do it any longer. And so took that pay cut and sat still a little bit, and then that's when I started to hear the whispers.
I absolutely love that snow globe. I love that
Mm,
visuals because that is exactly what it feels like.
mhm,
I mean, I resonate so much with what you just said because I mean, you know this, very similar. I was in corporate forever,
yeah,
10 years, and then I actually dance found me, and then I wanted to open up my own studio, and that's what I switched to and took a huge pay cut and risk
mhm,
in the midst of it, right? But it was in there that I found started to create space. Now I'm curious too, just like this is just for my own curiosity. Once you shifted into owning your own business,
mhm.
did you find yourself kind of repeating old patterns or kind of getting back into that space where there was less and less of, due to just the demands of what owning your own business can be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at the beginning, yes, especially as we were ramping up and my business partner and I went from having an income to all of a sudden we just went all in. So when we were first starting in those first couple of months, we did a little bit, and of course, it's like we only knew this one way of running a business, which is, heavily baked in the patriarchy, so, we're kind of, duplicating that, but we had enough self-awareness and a little bit of be like, "Wait a minute, we wanna do this differently. This is
Different.
the whole reason why we started our own company because we know there's a different way to do it." And so we just worked so well together in that. So we would dial it back and we would really make sure to have our values and our mission was front and center of our business. So we did a phenomenal job throughout the 6 years of really dialing it back and leading from that feminine embodiment and that feminine way, more magnetizing, more flowing, right? Than the masculine push, penetrating, go, vision. It's an important part of it, but we really, really did a lot of work together in
Yeah.
that. Mhm.
Okay. I love that you just mentioned masculine and feminine. So I
Yeah.
think this would also be really helpful for people listening that are not as familiar with the balance and how we each have masculine and feminine energies inside of us, and how, especially if you are in kind of the business world and you spend a lot of time, especially in corporate America, it can be very hyper masculine because that's just
Yeah.
historically how it's been created. So, and to kind of bring it back to what you're saying in the beginning, right? That can bring us into a very heady space where we are trying to figure out everything, right? Because
Mhm.
masculine is where we could hold logic and
Logic.
reason.
Yeah.
So, for anyone kind of listening, can you help them? understand what is core masculine, feminine energies, and then also maybe within your work, how you maybe identify and help clients identify where there might be some imbalance
Yeah.
and what are some ways to help with that?
So I think I said earlier something about like the sun and the moon, how both are so important, right? One's not better than the other. That's similar to like this masculine and feminine energy. When I think of masculine energy, it's very like penetrating. It's very like goal oriented.
No
Here's the vision. I mean,
pun
right?
intended.
But it's an easy way to remember it for sure. But it's very like, okay, here's the goal. This is the step to take to it. It's that logic. It's that go energy. It's that penetration. It's that focus, right? It's the container that we hold, right? Like when I
Yep.
think of like a river, right? Like a river bank. The banks are the masculine. It's like this is the way and the river is that feminine. The feminine is the flow, the like there's no destination. It's just the journey. It's like where am I being magnetized to? Feminine is really connected to the spirit world. It's like the intuition. It's expansive and flowy and create like it's the creativity, right? It's like giving ourselves the spaciousness for the creativity and the downloads to come in. And we need both, right? We need both to like live and lead our life and to run a successful business. My business partner and I were really, really playing with like, what's the both, right? It's like, yes, we want the vision and here are our goals. And like, how do we give ourselves spaciousness to come up with different ideas, out of the box thinking, like that creative energy to like have ideas come through without the force? And this is something that I'm like actively bringing into balance in my life because I was really going into corporate. I don't know if you identify with this, but what the corporate world is very masculine. It's very like go,
Go.
yes, like we need to like this is the quota, this is the goals, like work a lot, burn, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. That's a lot of like penetrative masculine energy. And I kind of swung my pendulum. I'm like, let me just be in the flow. And what I'm realizing in my life is the flow is beautiful. But if we
Mm.
don't have that goal and we don't have that direction, it's like the water without banks. It's just like has nowhere to go. And then you feel kind of just like in chaos, right?
Mm.
So that's why the balance is so important.
Okay. Yes. Balance, so important. I love also okay, can we give you a huge high five for the metaphors, okay? Riverbank,
Yeah.
riverbank and that snow globe are gold. Okay, so how do you, when you're working with someone and you're seeing,
Mhm.
okay, if you spot it, you got it, right? Okay, I see that. That looks familiar. A lot of masculine energy. What are some
Yeah.
strategies that you help your clients with to just move away from that over time? And I love this micro moments thing, so that you mentioned before, this idea of micro moments, because I think that that's a really important point. But yeah, what are some of the strategies that you work with your clients on?
Yeah. I mean, my journey was it's like a slow sort of like unraveling, right? And when I was in my masculine, I wasn't in my body, I was in my mind. And when I'm not in my body, the quickest, easiest way that I start with working with people is like tuning into the senses, right? Like being into our senses and in tune with our sensuality is for me one of the best ways to get back in touch with that feminine nature and with our body because when we're in our senses and we're starting to turn on, our sense of smell and our sense of touch and hearing, we have to drop out of our mind to be able to tune into that, to tune into like what's going on around us, right? Nature is also another one. Like nature is my biggest teacher.
Same.
Feeling that aliveness when I'm out in nature and I allow myself to just like feel the ground beneath me and start to feel my breath and just listen. And I can be in nature and then just burst into tears at a butterfly floating by me because I'm like,
Same.
life is so wildly like alive and magic. Like it feels like magic. And I think
Mhm.
like that's a word I keep coming back to is magic because that's what life is meant to feel like. It's like we felt that when we were children, like that wonder, like that all that like magic of life. And at what point do we stop feeling life as magic? And I'm really convinced that it's meant to feel magical, even as adults.
1,000%. Can I just tell
Yeah.
you that the other day I went outside to my little flower garden and I just watched bees just gorge themselves on pollen, and it made me so incredibly happy. I could have
Yes.
watched it forever. It was just this
Ever.
I'm like, "This is so magical." And to know that those little bees are then gonna go somewhere else and pollinate another plant so that everything just keeps flowing magically, I was like, "This is the best thing."
Yes.
Yeah. Magic
And
moments.
that's it, like, that's what we are made of, right? Like, there gets a point in, like, the awakening journey, the spiritual journey, where you realize that I am you and
You
you are me,
yes,
and we are nature, and trees are us, and we are trees, and so nature is in us,
in
and
us
when we're outside and we feel, like, the aliveness, there's nature's not doing anything, it's just being
being.
alive. And that's how we get to be too.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
This is fun. I
So
could talk to you all
fun!
day.
Yes. Okay, so 2 things that came up there, the turned onness, right? So,
Ooh,
like, and nature is a key place where you kind of, like, get turned on to and me too, like, I can sit outside in nature and just watch that all damn day. Like,
yes.
give me a cabin in the woods or something by the water, see you never. You know where I'm at.
Yes.
But okay, so now but we also live in this very real world, okay? So, talk to me if you're working with a busy mom or even a single mom who is undoubtedly in a state of fight flight on the regular, right? And then she's got a
Yes.
lot of responsibilities. What are some things that she can do that are doable? Like 1% each day
Yeah.
that can help her develop those kind of micro moments to connect to herself, which may seem like, is this working, on a
Yeah.
day to day basis? But then over time, 1 month, 2 month, all of a sudden you're like, wait,
Mhm.
I'm back online a little bit more.
Mhm.
Can you share just some thoughts with that?
Yeah, and I know this like, my sister is pregnant with her 4th kid. I have so many friends that are in this stage with little kids, and what comes up for me is when we haven't talked about it yet, and I'm so excited because you said dance, but music.
Mm,
Music is also one of those teachers for me in my life and such potent medicine, and so what I would tell the busy mom, 1 song.
yeah,
This is what my
love that.
my tantra teacher says this too. She's like, "We think sometimes we need to set aside an entire
Hours.
hour, yeah, like, to do our self-pleasure practice or to work out," and it's like 1 song. Choose 1 song, and for that 1 song, 3 to 4 minutes, you are fully allowing yourself for that music to move through you. What does it feel like to, like, fully become that song? Like, move with that music, be in that song, allow whatever is here. 1 song. You can shut
Yeah,
yourself in the bathroom, 1 song. Your kid will be okay. Just 1 song. That's what I
yeah.
would say to busy mom.
I
Yeah.
love that. That is such a good juicy little takeaway for anybody listening. That is and just anybody, right, who is just super busy. Get that one song on and just go rock out and or even also I'm a big proponent of closing your eyes too. Because if
Yeah.
it can be like right? So the thinking, so shutting off that thinking brain, just kind of close your eyes and just let it move through you. I love that. I love it. We talked a lot about here are some things that I really kind of pulled out, the importance of creating space, right? And really acknowledging perhaps if you are in that snow globe, how you can start to even just with step one, building awareness.
Yes.
Like I'm in the globe, right? And then the other, kind of pieces that I've been really just listening to you on is this idea of a practice is that we all want the quick fix, but the quick fix doesn't exist. It is the practice of living. And really, what I'm taking away from you in our conversation is that we all get to really kind of define what living is for us. And we've talked about this. I don't necessarily feel like we ever got that lesson. We come out and it's like, this is life, which is true. But life and living are two different things.
Life and living are 2 different things. Yep.
What are some of your core practices, your
Mhm.
core micro moments on a daily basis that continually help ground and turn you on and flow through your life where so that you're feeling like I'm living?
Mhm. Yeah, I love this question. And this has changed for me over the years and it still changes. And this is where I get to really dance and practice my masculine and feminine energies. So, what's a non negotiable for me is that I have 2 hours in the morning for practice. That's my
Mm,
masculine containment. If I get too rigid with that, like if I'm like, okay, 30 minutes of this, 30 minutes of this,
mm,
30 minutes of this, that's when I fall off of my practice because it becomes too rigid and I sort of, like, self-sabotage myself in that. I'll boycott it because I'm like, Don't tell me what to do," like, talking to myself. So, what has worked for me is I'm like, 2 hours and it doesn't have to be 2 hours. For me, I have the luxury of it, and I'm so grateful. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, but no matter what, every single day, these 2 hours, this is my practice. And then and I allow my feminine to lead. Okay, I know these 2 hours are for my practice. What does my body want to do today? And it depends on where I'm at in my cycle. Sometimes my body wants to go for a
Mm,
really long walk. Sometimes my body wants to do some breath work. Sometimes my body wants to like lift some weights. Sometimes I just want to dance. And that's where I allow my feminine to like really take the lead. So it changes every day. But I would say most days I'm doing some sort of breath work and like allowing the breath is such a powerful vehicle to move energy. And that's like, it's an energy game, right? Like my tantra teacher says, our energy is our business card. And I'm believing that more and more. The more that
mm,
I'm in an energetic state of who I want to be, an energetic state of magnetism, the more opportunities and invitations that flow my way. It's really wild how that happens. So I'm like, my breath helps me move the energy, right? And then a lot of times I'm walking because that we talk a lot about, we didn't get into this so much in this podcast, but nervous system state, my default is freeze.
mm.
So when I get overwhelmed, I will freeze. And that's when like I have a hard time moving. So just walking and changing,
Yep.
like moving in
Counterbalance it.
space. Yes, like moving in space and time
Yep.
helps me like just really get out of my own like stuck way. So
Yeah.
walking is a big part of my day too.
I love that. Yeah. So we didn't talk about nervous system. That will definitely be part two.
Yeah.
But yeah, for anyone listening that tends to be a freezer with any sort of kind of nervous system regulation, I like to call it like the counterbalance cure, right? So if you are a fighter and a person that goes, how can you bring yourself down from that state? So breath is actually kind of a universal uh, tool in that sense. And then to Jess's point, if you're frozen, how can you start to bring in movement
Yes.
in a way that kinda gets you going again, and music is a great tool for that as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's great for anyone listening to really, um, giving them that permission that it doesn't have to be a rigid from this time to this time, right? So it's,
Mhm.
practicing, okay, here's the block, but then you allow that flow to happen, that beautiful balance with the masculine and feminine that you shared there. I love that, and I think that that's just such a brilliant example for people to hear, especially women who are kinda caught and lost in the sauce of the to-dos and the very much like, "Okay, from this to this, I'm going to here, and then we have to go there, and then
Yeah.
That's
Can I
beautiful.
bring something into the space too?
Please.
When I was going through my yoga teacher training years ago, it was my yoga teacher was like one of our first things that we did was we built an altar for ourselves in our home. And I was like, an altar? What does that like what is that? What does that mean? And this has been so powerful for me, especially as I've been nomadic. It's like wherever I go, I have an altar where it's like some sacred items, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be, a feather that you find outside. Bring in like elements, right, from nature. Bring in like a crystal or a picture or something that like you just feel like it's like speaks to your essence. And if you have like a physical place in your home, even if you're a busy mom, you share a room with, a partner, you have kid stuff everywhere. It can be a corner. It can be one little corner in your home where it's just your space where you go and it's just yours to like really get in touch with your essence. That has been really
Mm.
powerful practice for me.
I love that, absolutely. Yeah, I built a little one myself, and I have this little goddess statue and some gems and some stones and candle. And
Yes.
yeah, it's about you don't even have to sit at it, for hours, but
Yeah.
it's actually just looking at it. There's an energy to your point, it's all energy, right? So there's an energetic component of creating that space that, again, just kinda brings you back home. It continuously is that idea of coming back home, coming back into kind of like those little micro moments of alignment. I love that. I love that. All right, Jessie J. Jessie J, where can people reach out to you? We have Instagram at Jessica_Jordan. Where else can people reach out if they want to know you, talk to you, love up on you, work with you more?
Yes. My Instagram is a great way. I also have a website and it's embodiedjessica.com. So that would be a good place for people to find me. Yeah, those are probably the two best places. Embodiedjessica.com, Jessica with a Y, JessYca, and then Jessica_Jordan on
And
Instagram.
it's embodied, right? Embodied Jessica?
Embodied.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I love you. Thank you so
I
much
love
for
you.
bringing your magic here today on Coffee Talk. and definitely a part 2, and yeah, more definitely more to come with all the
Thank you.
things.
You're such a gem. I love you.
I love you.
Cheers.
Cheers.